Bardo was one of the best in the Second World War.
Imagine being in a plane 20,000 feet up in the air looking over the English Channel.
Yeah, all the while being attacked by German enemy planes determined to shoot you out the skies.
You see, Fran and I are scared of flying at the best of times.
I don't know how people cope with all the stressfulness of flying when there's also all the awfulness of war to deal with.
So what we wonder is, how did Douglas Bardo do it?
Douglas was born on February the 10th, 1910. He wasn't especially good at schoolwork, but it didn't matter too much because instead he was very sporty. Rugby, cricket, whatever it was, he was always the best in his class by miles.
In 1928, Bardo won a place as a cadet in the RAF, the Royal Air Force. He was just 18 years old.
He soon joined the aerobatics team, doing all kinds of aeroplane stunts and somersaults, something he turned out to be brilliant at. In 1931, something happened that was to change his life a lot.
Tell me.
He was out one day practicing his aerobatics at an airfield, but you know those people who are always determined to be the best at everything?
What, like you?
Yeah, well, he was one of those. So he tried an especially tricky stunt. What it was you had to fly the plane as close to the ground as possible, but also do a somersault at the same time.
That's impossible.
Yeah, well, practically. So he gives it a go, but the left wing of his plane skims along the ground. The whole thing cartwheels over and over again until it comes to a total standstill.
So what happened to him?
Well, he managed to get out amazingly. They took him straight to hospital, but obviously his injuries were horrific, so they had to remove both his legs.
That's awful, and especially awful for someone like him, because flying was his whole life.
And he was only 21.
The challenge for Douglas Bardo now was to learn to walk with legs made especially for him. The thing is, today false limbs look and feel really realistic, but back then in the 1930s, Douglas had to make do with legs made out of tin.
But he was very determined, and after a whole lot of work, he did manage to make them work, yay. Then came the Second World War. The war broke out on the 3rd of September 1939.
Oh, you clever clogs, how do you remember that?
Because it's the 3rd of September 1939, like 3rd of the 9th, 39. 3, 9, 3, 9. See? It's symmetrical. Follows a pattern.
Yeah. At the beginning of the war, Neville Chamberlain was the British Prime Minister. But in May 1940, the country elected someone new, Winston Churchill.
Churchill was generally considered a brilliant war leader. The thing he was best at was raising morale, putting everyone in a good mood, even in those desperate times.
He was also known for doing quite fun things. For example, instead of saying hello to his wife, he used to say wow every time he saw her.
I like the way he had all these weird sayings, like, cats look down on you, dogs look up to you, but pigs treat you as equals.
I actually think that's true.
With the outbreak of war, there was suddenly an urgent need for people who knew how to fly planes.
But the RAF bosses weren't convinced that Bardo was up to the job. Maybe because he didn't have any legs.
No, I wasn't going to let that stop him. Douglas was such a charmer that after a bit of this, a bit of that, they finally let him back up in the skies. He turned out to be such a brilliant pilot, as well as having so much experience, that he was soon put in charge of his very own squadron.
The 19 Squadron, based here in Duxford, Cambridgeshire. In June 1940, Bardo was put in charge of Squadron 242. Although he was a bit bossy, he also liked telling jokes, which made him very popular with all his men.
But the situation was about to get a bit more serious. The squadron was to be put to a real test, because that summer saw the beginning of the Battle of Britain. One of the planes that Douglas Bardo flew in his earliest days in the RAF was called a Tiger Moth.
But what is it actually like to fly one? We're here to find out.
Wow. That's not how I thought the plane would look at all.
Why?
I've never seen a yellow plane before.
No, I suppose I haven't, but it's amazing.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, girls.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Hi.
Right, what's our first job to get it up in the air then?
Well, it won't fly in the hangar, so we're going to have to get it out of the hangar, so move it out, and then we're going to get outside, then we can have a walk round.
It's worryingly light.
Isn't it? Much lighter than I thought it would be.
But it's very, very strong.
Makes me feel a bit scared that it's so small and delicate and tiny.
So we're going to start the walk round. Well, first thing we do is we'll actually have a look at the cockpit, just to make sure that everything's fine. If you want to hang on to the lever there,
Yeah.
just move that forwards.
Oh!
In the middle, we've got the control stick. And so if we move it to the right, you can see that the right one goes up.
So one of the qualities you need to be a pilot is you need to be quite accurate and thorough to check everything through.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would be accurate and thorough if I was going up
Flying
in a
is not
plane.
dangerous, but you have to be very focused.
Right.
It's very soft, actually.
It is, you can't.
Ah, it's really soft.
No.
It's not hard metal.
Not at all.
It's really quite soft.
So we're going to check that these wires are nice and secure. And we're checking the aileron here.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I feel like we're just going like this, but I don't feel like that's real checking. Is
Well,
it?
it is, because if it was loose,
So I'm just doing
we would
that.
notice it.
But it is a bit loose.
Well, it can't be too tight. Check the leading edge of the wing, make sure that that's secure. We also check our undercarriage and the tyres, make sure that they're fine.
Yeah, I'm a bit scared about this thoroughness.
No, this is fine.
I
This
feel like
is
I'm
good.
just pretending to look, but not
Okay,
really
so
looking.
mine out. We'll just
Okay.
start. That's good.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go and check the propeller here. And we have a look at the...
There's some
Engine.
moisture down there. Is that dangerous?
No, that's okay. We've got another aileron and we're checking this. Check the wires.
I'm going to check if there's a bird or anything underneath. No birds here.
So now we've been all the way round the plane to check it.
Yeah, we'll just check these finer bits because we do want to end up where we started.
Oh, right.
So we've still checked
Fran,
these wires.
thoroughness.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to be thorough. Have a look round.
Bit of wire
Look at the strut.
action. She's ready to go.
Yeah.
Is she a she or a he?
Oh, it's always a she.
I guess the next thing to do is to get us ready.
That'd be a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, see, we're going to have to decide who's going to go up in it.
You are.
We're both a bit scared, but quite also want to go up.
So we're all a
When
bit
you've
confused.
decided,
Yeah.
let me know.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
Thanks so much. The Battle of Britain began on the 30th of June 1940. Germany's Nazi army had already invaded most of Europe and Britain was the only place still left to resist it. But if the Nazis were to get into Britain by land or by sea, first of all they had to destroy its Royal Air Force.
This was a real threat. Goering, the head of the Nazi Air Force, ordered them to draw the RAF in by bombing important targets along the south coast. It was up to the RAF to keep them away.
The first time Douglas Bader's squadron got involved, they managed to shoot down 12 enemy planes in just under an hour.
In total, 3,000 men took part in the Battle of Britain to save the country from invasion. Most of them were just 19 or 20 years old. All of them were heroes.
So you see, the Hurricanes will be attacking the bombers at 20,000 feet, while the Spitfires will be 4,000 feet below, holding off the others.
Bader?
Yeah.
I think my nerves have got the better of me.
Oh, come on, Bentley, pull yourself together.
But they say that the Germans are putting out 800 trained pilots a month.
Ah, don't you worry about that. I've got it all planned. The Germans won't know what's hit them.
But you won't be in the plane with me, will you? I'll be there with the Messerschmitt coming towards me, firing all its guns. Just thinking about it makes me want to throw up.
Come on, old chap. Tell you what you need is something to take your mind off it. How about a quick drink? A game of rummy?
You'll never understand, will you? You chose to be a pilot in this war. I didn't. I'm just a bank clerk. All I'm used to is stamping bits of paper and counting pound notes. I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be freed. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty, that if the British Empire and its commonwealths last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour.
wasn't the only hero of the Battle of Britain. There was also the Spitfire. Designed by Reginald Mitchell, it was a piece of technical genius and played a crucial role in the Second World War. In fact, it's the most famous military aircraft of all time.
Most pilots rather fell in love with the Spitfire. The thing about it was just so easy to handle. Once you were up in the skies, you were suddenly in control of this massive great machine that could nip about all over the place, fly at 350 miles per hour, climb in minutes to 25,000 feet and fire 3,000 rounds of ammunition in just 14 minutes. Compared to any other propeller-driven plane around at the time, it was by far the most advanced. So we've checked the Tiger Moth, we've also decided who's going to go up in it.
Yeah, Fran's going to go up because her granddad was in the RAF and it's in her blood.
No, I better go and get changed.
I'm very jealous, actually. It looks amazing. Oh, my brave friend.
Now it feels quite scary and loud.
How is it?
Very juddery!
Very jittery.
Charlie, do things right hand.
Very jittery. Well, she's going to get the shock of her life in a minute. That's going to be jittery. Oh! Chucked away! Bye!
Oh, I can't even imagine what this is going to be like. So we're just about to set off in the air. The plane's so juddery.
Next information,
Feels quite cold already.
Charlie,
but
running in the
I
back.
guess it'll get a lot colder once we're up in the air.
Are you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Are you nice and secure?
I hope so. Oh, I'm frightened.
Away we go. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Right, we're off the ground.
She's away! She's off the ground!
Where's Ania? Oh, I can see Ania.
Go, Fran!
Oh, that was a wiggle. Wow, when we wiggle, that's really scary. Oh, I thought it could be sick then.
Sounds very loud from here! I can't imagine what it sounds like up there!
We're going to turn, okay?
There comes rolls.
Oh.
If you want to make the nose go up, ease the stick back and watch the nose go up. Ease the stick forwards, and the nose goes down.
Looks quite calm. I reckon Fran's not scared at all.
I think that is properly terrifying.
Okay, so I want you to put your fingers around the control stick.
Okay.
Keep the nose like that. Okay, Fran, you have control.
Whoa, I'm in control. Whoa. Oh, whoa. Whoa.
Just try and keep the horizon about there.
So I move the stick forward to go up.
No, it's stick back to go up.
Back to go up.
Yeah. What do you think, Fran, then?
I got a bit hysterical, but it is amazing being so far above the ground and being in charge of this tiny machine. I can't imagine having to steer it and look out for other aeroplanes too. I wonder what Ania's doing. I wonder whether she can see the plane.
I can see a few birds, but I can't see Fran. Which is worrying, because I didn't think she'd go that high up. I thought because it was a little plane I'd be able to see her, but I can't see her anywhere.
Right, we're just going to go in position now.
Position for what?
To land.
Oh, position to land.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I can see her! Fran! Fran! I'm here!
Oh, I feel so sick. Landing's even scarier! Whoa! 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 Oh, my hands are shaking so much. Hi! I wonder what she's been doing while I've been up in the air.
Fran! You're alive! She looks very happy. A bit windswept, but very happy.
My legs are so shaky. What was it like? What was it like? Properly terrifying. It was brilliant though. Like amazing.
But scary.
Yeah, really scary.
During the Second World War, food supplies were limited, so every person had a ration book which they had to get stamped every time they bought anything. The shortage of food meant there were some pretty horrible recipes, like powdered egg soup. Yuck. Worse still, yummy things like chocolate were in short supply. You'd only be allowed one small bar per family per week.
But that's hardly anything.
I know.
A gas mask was given to every single person. You had to carry it everywhere you went in case there was suddenly a gas attack. They weren't the coolest of fashion accessories. The big round eyes and nose piece just made everyone look a bit like Mickey Mouse.
Everyone was ordered to black out their houses so that enemy aircraft couldn't see any city lights from the air. If an air raid sounded, families had to take cover under tables or in specially made air raid shelters.
The other thing was that lots of children were evacuated to the countryside to escape all the bombing in the cities. This meant they were safer, but it also meant that some didn't get to see their parents for months on end.
Oh, sad.
So Reg, you were a child in the Second World War, weren't you? This is you.
That's me. That's the only photo I ever had taken before the war.
And you were evacuated. That must have been so weird.
Yes, I was evacuated twice actually. Over 300,000 children left London in 3 days. When you got to your destination, you'd already been given a little card that you sent to your parents to let them know where you were. And that was frightening for some children because your mum and dads weren't told, you weren't told. So it was a bit frightening with some children.
So where did you go in the end? Where did you end up?
I ended up in Oxfordshire, a little village, Weston-on-the-Green. 8 miles from Oxford and 5 miles from Bicester. We never travelled a lot before the war anyway, so suddenly going on buses and then on trains, although it was a bit crowded, but it was still an adventure for us. I think some children didn't know they was going to be away 2 or 3 years, 4 years in some cases.
So it must have been quite weird going from London to the countryside because they were very different, weren't they?
Yeah, suddenly from that, where you lived in London, to that in the countryside.
Quite extreme. Although they both had outside toilets, but their one was up the garden path, and I wouldn't go to the toilet at 7 o'clock. There's all ants and spiders in there.
Yeah. And what were your first impressions of the countryside compared to London, where you'd been brought up?
The countryside's very quiet. For East End boys, we like a lot of noise. We have street lights, noisy, etc. But suddenly you plunge in complete darkness and silence. It's a bit frightening, really. But then you get used to it. You know, it's sort of a thing that if you spend 2 years in a place, you're going to get used to it.
Was it really hard making new friends, though?
They didn't like us country kids. And I think every evacuee would tell you this. They called us townies. But it's a small village and you're in a one-room class, so you've got to get to know one another.
So what was it like when you eventually came back to London?
Well, a lot of the area, especially East End, was bombed quite a bit. Our buildings had suffered 2 bombs, but fortunately my mum and dad were safe. And but nearly every street there was bomb damage. It was okay because you're back with your mum and dad and in your own manner. When you're home, you're home.
The Battle of Britain saw 16 very tense weeks of fighting, but by October 1940, as quickly as they'd begun, the Nazi air attacks suddenly stopped.
But it was less than a year later that disaster struck for Bader. In August 1941, his Spitfire was shot down over Le Touquet in Nazi-occupied France. The Nazis threw him straight into a horrible prison hospital.
Bill Hall, Spitfire pilot, Eagle Squadron. So, what's the great Douglas Bader doing here then?
Stupid really. I tried to take on 6 Messerschmitts all by myself. I'm always telling the boys not to pull such stunts, but, well, it was just too tempting.
And?
Well, I got 2 of them, but the propeller of one of the planes sliced mine in half and I came down as well.
Still got your tin legs, I see.
No, actually I lost one of them. But the Germans found it and returned it. Repaired, cleaned and polished.
Well, I never. What is it?
I've just figured out a way out of here.
What are you doing?
An old trick I learnt at school. Make some noise.
Dum-de-dum, dum-dum, dum-dum, de-dum, dum-de-dum, de-dum, dum-dum, de-dum, dum.
Thanks, old chap. And remember, we've both got to get ourselves back up in that sky and win this darn war.
Using his rope made out of bed sheets, Douglas did manage to escape from the prison hospital. He was sheltered for a bit by 2 French peasants, but it wasn't long before he was found by a Nazi soldier.
He was made a prisoner of war and ended up in one of the highest security prisons in Germany, Colditz Castle.
While he was there, he spent so much of his time trying to escape that the prison guards were forced to confiscate his 2 legs to try and stop him.
I wonder why they hadn't thought that earlier. In fact, Douglas Bader remained imprisoned until the war ended in 1945.
When he got back to Britain, he got himself a normal 9-to-5 office job, but this soon turned out to be a bit too boring for Bader. Instead, he decided to put all his energies into helping people with similar disabilities to his own.
Yeah, by promoting the use of false limbs and helping people to walk again. If you think about it, Douglas Bader had lots of things happen to him in his life that he could moan about, but he just chose not to.
Yeah, instead he chose to put all his energies in the war into flying, into protecting the country from the Nazis. I mean, without people like him, who knows what would have happened?
He was a real hero.
Okay, Douglas Bader, go!
Douglas Bader lost his legs when he was just 21, but he didn't care. He still became a pilot in the Battle of Britain, but they shot him down, and they took his legs, but then they gave them back, and then he escaped from prison, hospital, and then he escaped again, and then, I don't know, Tiger Moss, Spitfires, boy things I don't really understand about planes.